Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our Scientology Stories, Peeling the Onion. Happy Memorial Day weekend for those of you in the United States. And we have a good show for you today. We're going to talk about a few things, show you some photos that you haven't seen, and then we're going to get to your questions and answers. So if you've got any questions, put them in the chat. We're ready to rock and roll. And let me bring in my co-host here. Give me 1 second. And here she is, Janis Gillham Grady. Hi, Janis. How are you?
Hi, Mark. I'm good, and I'm trying to match you again. I found another Hawaiian dress.
It's going to be hard to match me with 45. I think I got 45 or 50.
I found I have two. Sorry, not 45. But maybe I'll come back with flowers again next week.
Okay, great. Anyway, people are starting to come into the live stream, and let us know in the chat where you're from, where you're watching from. Hi from Rhode Island, Lorna says. We've got let's see who else is coming in here. So anybody else say where you're watching from? Anybody else want to say where they're watching from?
I'm watching from Las Vegas.
Okay, hi y'all from Texas. Okay, thank you, Brandy. Hi from Florida, Sherry Wright. Thank you very much. Oh, we got somebody from Brazil, Juliana Benton.
Wow, great.
Yeah, Manchester, United Kingdom. Yeah, we decided to do a little bit earlier today so that we could get people from England and Europe. Hi from Dallas. Hi from Houston, Texas.
And Yorkshire.
Lancaster, California. And we got a lot of Texans in here, and that's really cool. And we got somebody from Italy. Yeah. And hello from Paris, France. That's cool. So we got people from all over. We got Cannon Beach, Oregon, and Bakersfield, California, Denmark, Colorado, and Goldie. She's in South Florida, I think. And hi from Athens, Georgia. Goldie is in the house. She's in the chat room, so she'll be moderating, and we want to welcome Goldie and all that.
Scotland.
What's that?
Scotland.
Okay, great. North Pole. L. Ron Hubbard's at the North Pole.
So Santa Claus.
Hi from South Africa. Hello from Virginia Beach, Virginia. And New York. That's fantastic. Fort Lauderdale. Okay, great. So anyway, there you go. Anyway, just so you all know, we are going to have a giveaway. Janis is going to give away an autographed copy of her book, Book One, Commoner's Messenger, Book One. Janis, put it in the camera there. There you go. Yeah. And we're going to do that about 30 minutes into it. We'll do a random drawing in the chat. And then all you have to do is just email Janis, and we'll mail it out to you. It'll be an autographed copy. Janis, you want to tell anybody else more about that?
Yeah, just so I know some people don't know this, but the book also has photos in it. There's different photos of different things that have happened. Right. So it is chock full of photos.
That's great. And we're going to do a drawing 30 minutes in, and then we're going to do a drawing for a second book towards the end of our broadcast. So there'll be two chances for somebody to win an autographed copy of her book, Commoner's Messenger. Okay. So anyway, so we hope you enjoy it.
And if they already have the books, instead I have these bags with the covers of the books on both sides for groceries or to keep your books safe. So you can get those instead of books if you already have books.
Fantastic. Okay, we've got 93 people in here viewing. The other good news too is, Janis, we went over 4,000 subscribers this morning. Finally, we're over 4,000. Not bad for 5 weeks.
Thank you, everyone.
If you haven't subscribed already and you're watching, please hit that subscribe button, and that way it helps us get notify you that we've got another video coming out, and also lets other people see it as well who've never watched. So subscribe and click that like button. You guys all know the drill. I'm sure many of you have been doing this for a long time. So we want to tell you all we appreciate your support, and we're over 4,000 subscribers. We got a long way to go to catch up to Aaron, who's at 158,000. But hey, we're the little engine that could.
That's right. We just keep going.
Okay, and then also we have something that was sent in to us from Marilyn Honig. We got our Theta potatoes. Thank you so much, Marilyn. I don't know if you're in here right now, but if you do, if I see your comments later on, we'll show them to you again. But she made these crocheted Theta potatoes for us, and she really enjoyed, Janis, your potato story, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that's what got these. So I love it. I love it. I'm glad it matches my story.
That's right. We were actually talking about it at dinner time last night with Janice's sister Terry, because Terry was involved with the potatoes as well.
And she retold the story to everyone at dinner.
That's right. Anyway, so about 30 minutes into the video, we'll do a drawing for Janice's book, and then we'll do another one towards the end. So stick around, all right? And we'll go from there. Okay, we're going to move on. We've got over 106 people now watching, and keep growing. And we got somebody here from Copenhagen. Clearwater Chad is in the house. Hi, Clearwater Chad. We got lots of people in here, and we're really happy that you're here on this Memorial Day weekend. Now, one of the things about a Memorial Day in the United States, okay, it's different from Veterans Day. Both of them basically salute the military service, but Memorial Day is for those actually remembering those who were killed in action during any conflict or war, and that's what it's about. But we want to thank anybody who was in the military or served in the military for their service, not just in the United States, in your home countries too, because they help to keep you safe. And we just want to wish everybody a happy Memorial Day weekend. Okay. Now, there's a tradition here in the United States on Memorial Day weekend. And it's gone on, I think, for over 100 years, and that's a car race called the Indianapolis 500 or the Indy 500. Okay, and I've got a story about that. I've been watching it since I was a kid. I watch it, almost every year if I can, and I actually went to it one year as well. But we're going to tell you a story about Scientology and Dianetics and the Indy 500. And so we've got some slides here that I'm going to show. Okay, Janice?
Yeah,
Here we
go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, and if you see, oh, by the way, load up the questions. If you guys got questions, please put them in the chat. If you want to super chat us or super sticker us, we really appreciate it. Any donations, anything like that, that's an easy way to do it, and it actually helps us out, expand our channel. So we really appreciate it, but we're going to answer everybody's questions. But if you want your questions to stand out, you can super chat us or super sticker us.
Yeah. Also, if they just say question in capital letters, then it's easy to find. So while you're doing this, I'm going to be looking for the questions.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So you just begin your chat comment if you have a question with the word question. It makes it easier for us to spot it and not to miss it. Okay. All right. So the Indianapolis 500, actually in the late 70s, when I was in the Sea Organization, there was a flag public person whose son, his name was Joseli Garza. He's from Mexico, and he actually was a driver in the Indianapolis 500. He only was like 21 or 22 years old, and I remember that. His parents were famous flag public people from Mexico City, and he was a driver and he was a Scientologist. But the story that happened in 1988 in the Indy 500 has to do with Dianetics, the book Dianetics, The Modern Science of Mental Health. L. Ron Hubbard wrote that book, and he felt that was the gateway to get people into Scientology. And our friend Jefferson Hawkins, he was in charge of the Dianetics campaign to get the book on the bestseller list again. And so he did the whole volcano commercials and lots of different things. It was very successful. They sold a lot of Dianetics books through that campaign. Well, in 1988, a guy named Bill Dendu and some other people, they got involved in the marketing with Jeff Hawkins. And Bill decided he got hooked up with a sports marketing guy where you could actually sponsor sporting events. And it was based off of a guy, a Scientologist named, I think his name was Gil DeFerrin. And he rode in the 24 Hours of Le Mans race in Europe, and he had Dianetics printed on the side of his car. And basically, as you're driving around, it's on TV, they can see the Dianetics name and logo. And Scientology decided to use that in all their promotional videos and events and things like that. So anyway, Bill and Jeff and some of the other people, they met with the sports marketing expert, and they decided, hey, let's sponsor an Indy car in the Indianapolis 500. Okay. Well, this sports marketing guy hooked him up with the most famous owner of Indy cars, and his name is Roger Penske. Roger Penske, if anybody knows who's in auto racing, and also he has Penske Rent-A-Trucks, and he has all these Penske auto dealers. He's like a billionaire, and he's famous all over the United States. Anyway, they got an agreement with Roger Penske to put the Dianetics logo as a primary sponsor on one of his 3 cars. And it was a car that was driven by a guy named Al Unser, who was a famous IndyCar driver, who was the defending champion. He had won the Indianapolis 500 the year before in 1987. So they signed the deal and all that. They're going to put Dianetics on the side of his car. Well, lo and behold, Roger Penske's wife found out about it, and she threw a fit. She's like, there's no way you're going to have Dianetics. You know, this place is a cult. Scientology is a cult, and you're not going to have that on the side of your car. So Roger Penske had to almost immediately back out of the deal, right? And he canceled the deal so that Scientology and Dianetics would not be on the side of the car. So what happened was they had to scrounge around and find somebody else, another team that would do it. So this is Roberto Guerrero, and he was a Colombian-American IndyCar driver, and he had been the Rookie of the Year before in the Indy 500. And this is his car in 1988, and his team agreed to have Dianetics on the side of the car. And you can see it just above the front left wheel. It says Dianetics, and then also on the wing. And I have a photo that's a little bit closer right there where you can see it. So there's the Indy 500 draws about 500,000 people live to the race. But the bigger thing is that when it's on television for 3.5 or 4 hours and it's going around and they have the pit stops and all that, the idea is that people will see your logo. They'll call it the Dianetics car or whatever. And that's supposedly going to promote everything, right? So this all gets set up for the 1988 Indy 500. David Miscavige, all the executives, Mark Yeager, several of the key executives, they flew to Indianapolis to see the race and see their car. And they had a booth that they were going to be in, the whole bit. And what does Roberto Guerrero do? He doesn't even get out of the first turn in the beginning of the race. He actually crashes the car between turn 1 and turn 2, and the car was out of the race. It didn't even complete 1 lap of the race. Okay, so basically all that money that was spent on it was a complete waste. Nothing happened with it, and it was all because Penske's wife said, I'm not having that on our car. Anyway, this picture here is all 3 of Roger Penske's cars were the fastest qualifying cars that year, and they were on the front row. And this is the picture of the 3 drivers, and you can see Al Unser on the left. That was going to be the Dianetics car. Anyway, Roger Penske's driver in the middle, Danny Sullivan, actually won that race, and they would have had Dianetics on there as well. So basically, we were basically SOL. You know, Dianetics never made it onto his car, and that was the end of it. And that's the story about the 1988 Indy 500 and Dianetics. What do you think, Janice?
Good story, Mark. Very good story. I remember when that happened, but I wasn't into race car driving, and I still aren't. So yeah, it really meant nothing to me.
What I remember is Bill Dendu, because he was a friend of ours and all that. Oh, he took a lot of crap for the whole thing. DM really gave it to him, saying, you wasted all that money, and all we got was not even a complete lap of the race. It's a 200 lap race, and we didn't even get 1 lap. So he got in a lot of trouble for it. Anyway, so that was the story about the Indianapolis 500. Keep filling up the questions. We see some that are getting in there and getting started, and I'll go on to the next slide here, okay?
Okay.
Janice, why don't you tell about this? Remember,
Sven Peterson.
Yeah, and this is Colonel Brock, right, who keeps asking about Sven?
Yeah, I don't see Colonel Brock in the chat here. So
well, he'll have to watch the replay.
Yeah, he'll have to watch the replay. But he's been asking about Sven Peterson. And in the last video, I told him that Sven passed away last year in May. And then I found out they had a service for him in September. Mm-hmm. And then I promised him I'd find a photograph. And I have managed to find 1 photograph so far, but I think he's in a video somewhere that I've got to find and go through and see if he's in there. But okay, here's the 1 photograph that I found. Okay, this is from a promotion for Class 8 course supervisors. And there's a whole series of photographs showing supervisors coming on board to get training. And then if they mess up, they go to the ethics officer. So here's a picture of someone going to the ethics officer, and it says, of course, we can levitate. We do regular levitation
drills
here on the Apollo all the time. Let me show you. So then there's a picture next of Sven Peterson posing with Joanne Robertson and someone else being thrown overboard.
Here's a closer picture of it.
Yeah, because the overboard was done to the Class 8 auditors and supervisors and even crew if they messed up. If a Class 8 did not get a well-done session, they got thrown overboard. This was during their training.
Colonel Brock is in the chat house now. He sees this.
Oh, he is. Okay.
So, Colonel Brock, we found the photograph, and unfortunately, it was a post photo of him being thrown overboard. Now, he actually probably wasn't thrown overboard as part of
No,
this
he
promotion,
wasn't. He just posed for that.
Yeah. But that was a common punishment that Hubbard set up, right? Where they would actually throw people overboard for the Class 8s and also staff members that were messing up, right?
Yeah. And, and that photograph isn't even taken in the location where people got thrown from. Because that looks like that's from the poop deck and when the overboards were done from the well deck.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, Colonel Brock, if we find any more, we'll let you know. But that's what we have, and we hope you enjoyed seeing that photograph. All right. So the next one here. Who is that nerd? Okay, I posted a photograph. I posted a photograph of somebody that we're going to show you here in a second. I asked, "Who is that nerd?" It looked like a bookwormish accountant or whatever. Anyway, we had all sorts of guests from L. Ron Hubbard to Janis with a short haircut to me to Ron Miscavige Sr. to you name it. Okay, so we're now going to reveal who that nerd is, and I think most of you know who it is. And here he is right there. That is David Miscavige in around probably 1984, 1985. And that's what he looked like when I first started working for him. He had a little scrubby mustache. He wore these thick glasses, and then he had this hair. And he was, at that time, his position was chairman of the board of Author Services Incorporated, which was the LRH, the L. Ron Hubbard. It was the for-profit corporation to handle any of his money and his book sales and movies and things like that. But he had a dual role. David Miscavige also had a position in the Commodore's Messenger org of special project operator or special project ops. And in that role, he ran all of the reorganization of the corporations of Scientology, the reorganization of the Office of Special Affairs, the legal cases. His responsibility was trying to get the all clear for L. Ron Hubbard so he could come back out of hiding. And so he did both. He was the chairman of the board, but he also was of Author Services. He didn't have anything to do with RTC. And then he also was Special Project Ops. Okay.
Yeah. Now, I'll let you finish.
No, I'm done. Go ahead. Do you want to make a comment and then I'll show the next picture.
Well, I was just going to comment because someone had asked me before why management didn't rise up and overthrow him. And that's because management was up at Gold in Hemet while Miscavige was down in Los Angeles working on the all clear and the corporate sort out. The corporate sort out was actually supposed to be what was to take over from Hubbard. It was as mission ops. It was Dave's responsibility to get all the corporations sorted out and all the echelons in place. That's where you had WDC, Watchdog Committee, and you had the executive strata underneath who were over sectors. And then you had flag management who were over the continental officers who were over the organizations and on down. And it was his job to actually sort all that out so that Hubbard didn't have to worry about it because the management was turned over to these sectors. And as mission ops, it was his job to get that done. But with him down in LA working on that and working with attorneys on getting the corporation set up and also on all the different lawsuits to get those settled so that there's an all clear so Hubbard could come back to Gold, he did that from Los Angeles. So with him in that position, he started doing relays with that broker, and we just didn't know what was going on down there because we were busy managing Scientology. And then suddenly it's like he's suddenly got all this power, and corporately he had all the power. And when Hubbard did die, Pat and Annie weren't on any of the corporations, so legally they had no standing.
Yeah, Miscavige basically set it up with the attorneys to basically make his position, you couldn't go after him because he had the attorneys and he had all the power corporately, so that if somebody said, oh, well, you're out and removed, he could just go, oh, no, legally I'm in place. He had it all set up that way. Now, that picture there, he's about 24 or 25 years old. That's how old he was then when that picture was taken. I'm going to go to the next picture, which is going to show you where this photograph was taken. Okay. Now, that photograph there, he's shaking the hands of your stepfather, Heber Jentz, right?
Yeah, that's my stepfather, Heber. And behind him is my sister in the purple top.
That's Terry. And then behind Dave Miscavige in the sort of, I don't know, it's like a brown sweater with design on it. That's Janine Boyd, and she was the L. Ron Hubbard personal public relation officer, and she would handle buying any birthday gifts or Christmas gifts, things like that in L. Ron Hubbard's name, and they would be given to people on their birthday. And this looks like it's Heber's birthday, and it looks like they gave him like a dress white Sea Org uniform. That's what he's got in his lap, and Miscavige is there shaking his hand in his shirt and tie with his thick glasses, and he looks like I said, like a junior accountant at some firm. And that's where this photograph was taken.
Someone said Dave looks with that mustache. He looks like a 1980s porn star.
Well, he did it obviously to make himself look older. He already was short, right? I mean, he grew that mustache. We have photographs of him in 1980 with that mustache and long hair. So it's funny because he tried to look older, but he wasn't an older guy. Here's the next picture. This is another photograph from the same thing. Miscavige is obviously talking to him, and it's the same people there, and Heber's looking up at him. And then this is a third photograph here. Now, this is a picture. Miscavige is holding a framed, looks like a present to Heber. And that's Terry, Janice's sister, in the middle in the purple. And then on the right in the white blouse is Vicky Asnaran. And then in the man to the very far right, that's Vicky's husband, Rick Asnaran. And Vicky was the deputy inspector general, and she was literally the person in charge of Religious Technology Center in those days. Annie Broker, who I almost said somebody else that we know. Anyway, Annie Broker was with L. Ron Hubbard, and she was the inspector general, and she was the person in charge of RTC. But Vicky was really the de facto head of Religious Technology Center. And then her husband, Rick, was called the safety officer, and he was responsible for L. Ron Hubbard's security if he ever got an all clear and came back to the base. So he actually helped set up the security force, and he took care of L. Ron Hubbard's gun collection and things like that. And so that's who those people are. But DM is holding up a framed, looks like a wanted, it says wanted on the top of it. I zoomed in on it, a photo or a drawing of Heber. And I can't see what it says underneath it, but Heber had been arrested in Spain along with several other Scientologists and held because the Spanish government thought that, we're charging Scientology with fraud, right, Janice?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So Heber and a couple of other people were held, and that after an IAS event, because they'd been there doing fundraising. Mm-hmm. And so he was held there for a while, and then they finally got him released. And I remember we had a big celebration for him when he came back to, celebrate his getting out of jail.
Yeah. And I'm sure this is some kind of humorous thing saying wanted president of the Church of Scientology and what a great guy is and all that, because that's what Heber is. And they're all laughing because it's obviously some kind of a joke gift that they were giving to Heber. So right. that's the nerd that was in charge back in the day. Okay. And so that's the story on that. All so the next one, okay? Keep those questions coming in. We're going to get to them shortly. And like I said, in about 10 minutes, right before we go to questions, we'll do our first giveaway for the book, okay? L. Ron Hubbard's Mystery Child. Okay, we showed you in the last video we did the history of St. Hill Manor, and we showed you photographs of L. Ron Hubbard with Mary Sue Hubbard and their children, their 4 children, and they look like the happiest of family. Well, I'm reading Barefaced Messiah again for a second time. It's been 30 years, written by Russell Miller, and of course L. Ron Hubbard has a checkered past when it comes to his family and his family relations, and I'm going to show you some pictures here. This is LRH with his second wife, Sarah Northrup. Okay.
But there was no second wife.
What's that?
There was no second wife, only a third wife.
Well, we'll get to that in a second, but basically that is his second wife. He married Sarah Northrup while he was still married to his first wife, Polly, okay? And this is a photograph of L. Ron Hubbard and Sarah on a sailboat in Miami, Florida, right? And basically, Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard disowned his second wife. He actually had a child with Sarah, which was his daughter, Alexis, and we're going to show you a photograph of her. But basically, Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard wanted nothing to do with Sarah in the history of L. Ron Hubbard. So on the left, you see a photograph, and that's a real photograph of her sitting right behind LRH, right? But then on the right side, that's a Photoshop photo that Scientology put out, taking Sarah completely out of the photo, showing L. Ron Hubbard as a master mariner, okay? So they wanted to erase her out of his life, okay? And here's a picture here, and that's L. Ron Hubbard with Sarah, and they're holding their daughter, Alexis. And Janice, why don't you go ahead and tell the story about Alexis and LRH?
Yeah, well, when we were on the ship, Alexis actually wrote to Hubbard as her father and asking him different questions. And the letter went to the guardian's office, who sent it to Mary Sue, and Mary Sue took it into Hubbard himself, and he read over it. And I was actually standing in front of his desk waiting to report back on a message while he was writing to Alexis. So I was reading the letter from upside down, in where he was actually denying that he was her father. However, if we look at the next picture,
right here,
you can't deny that.
That's Alexis, obviously, and L. Ron Hubbard, and that's Alexis years later. And you can see both Hubbard in their face and also Sarah Northrup in her face. So you can't deny it, you know. Also, in Russell Miller's book, he describes there was a whole custody battle over Alexis, where L. Ron Hubbard actually took Alexis to Cuba in the 1950s to get her away from her mother, and then eventually had to give her back to Sarah to raise. And then, like you said, Janice, he basically disowned her. Said, "I don't have a." He even got interviewed, like on the ship, right? Like a reporter asked him about, his children. He said, "I only have, X number of children and X number of ex-wives," right?
Right. Well, that's where he said there was no second wife. That was my joke.
Right. Yeah. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
okay.
So I just want to set that record straight. Huh?
While we're on the subject of Sarah, I wanted to show everyone a book.
Oh, yeah.
And if you could zoom in on me, that would help. This book here, L. Ron Hubbard, Messiah.
Hold it in front of your face. You got to hold it in front of your face. Yeah. There you go.
Now, this book was written by Bent Carden, and it says, and L. Ron Hubbard Jr. as Ronald DeWolf. Now, what I know about this is Bent did work with Nibs, L. Ron Hubbard Jr., who then was contacted by the Guardian's office, and he got cold feet. So the book was actually written from interviews that had been done with him and interviews of Sarah. So if anyone's interested in this, I don't know where you can find it, probably on Amazon or eBay, but Bent did a lot of work on this. And Bent is actually a guest in my house right now for Memorial Weekend. He is here along with Candy Swanson, who was my tutor back in 1968 when I was 11 years old. So they're both here guests, and they're actually in the pool, but they were going to try and get out of the pool and come in and say hello probably around the top of the hour. So we'll see if they make that. But they were excited that I was going on and I was going to show everyone Bent's book.
Okay,
Bent
great.
and Candy also went to Greece with me back in September. So we've been staying in touch and having a good time in life.
Okay, great. And then one more slide we're going to show you before we do the book giveaway. Get ready, everybody. We're going to do a drawing for the autographed book of Janis's book, okay? Anyway, Hubbard's disguise when shopping. When we did our last question and answer a few days ago, I mentioned a story that my ex-wife told me about L. Ron Hubbard going to the grocery store with the messengers, and he would wear a disguise while they were out buying candy and everything. And Janis told a story about his disguise. Well, I found a photograph of L. Ron Hubbard in that disguise, and I'm going to show it to you right now. That's the one, right, Janis, with the hair?
Yeah, that's the one. He had a variety of hats with the fake hair sewn into it. And yeah, and then he'd dress like that, and he'd go out and we'd go shop, and we'd go to Albertsons or wherever. You know, I was wearing thongs, and he took me to a shoe shop to buy me a pair of shoes, so I wasn't wearing flip-flops, thongs, flip-flops in America. And yeah, so this is how he looked, so people would recognize him. And when we would go to the grocery store, we would kind of, two messengers would kind of walk up and down different aisles and let him just kind of wander and do his thing so as not to draw attention to him.
It's funny because when you look at him, you go, that's L. Ron Hubbard with a wig on.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, great. So anyway, so we found that photo. We wanted to share it with you. Okay. So we're getting ready now. We're going to do a book giveaway. Let me show you. This is Janis's book 1. And this is Commoner's Messenger, Book 1 by Janis Gillham Grady, A Child Adrift in the Scientology Sea Organization. And we're going to do a random drawing. So get in the chat, say whatever you want, me or book me or whatever you want to say, and we're gonna randomly pick somebody. And then Janis, you're gonna autograph the book and send it to them, correct?
Yeah, but whoever wins will have to email me their name and address so I can get it to them. And if they want it personalized, I will personalize it too.
Great, and we'll give you the email address as soon as we pick the person. Okay. All right. So Get in the chat, everybody. If you want the book, put in a chat, and we're just going to randomly pick somebody. Okay. So I'm going to count down. All right. I'm going to count down 5, 4, 3. You know what I mean? All the way down to 1, and then I'm just going to randomly pick somebody. Okay. So if you want a book, you want to win a book, get in the chat. Make your presence known. All right. Okay. So we're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and it's going to be Joel McCoyne. Joel McCoyne, you've won the book. Okay, and what you need to do, Janis, tell them the email address where they can email you so that to send their address where you can send the book. Thank you, everybody. We're going to do another drawing also at the end of this video. Go ahead, Janis.
Okay, Janis, Janis, Gillham, Gillham, Grady, Grady @gmail.com.
Okay, so congratulations, Joel, and that book will be coming to you. And we want to thank everybody else for participating. And like I said, we're going to have another giveaway shortly. Now I got to figure out how to take him down because there's all these. We loaded up our chat here. I think I just click on it. No, that didn't work. All right. Well, there we go. Hide current comment. There we go. Okay, everybody. So that's our first book giveaway. And we're now ready to go to questions. We've got several starred questions, and I'm going to start at the top, Janis, and then you keep an eye if there's any others that you want to put in there. We'll go ahead and answer. If you want to super chat us, please go ahead and do so, or super sticker us. And I'm just going to start at the top here. And here's our first one here. And this is from Nurse Lori. I will possibly miss the live, but question. Janis, I'm listening to your first book. My question is, as a young messenger, what did you feel about young children being placed in the chain locker?
I was horrified by it, and I always had that fear of I could be next, and you live with that, and so you always making sure you're on your best behavior because you do not want to go there. My dad, it's in that first book. My dad was in the chain locker, and it was horrible watching him being there. So yeah, that was my feelings, and I didn't. To me, it didn't make sense because Scientology wasn't supposed to be about this type of punishment, but it was.
Okay, Norse Lori, thank you so much for your question. All right, we'll go to the next one here. This is actually, I don't think this is a question, but it's a comment. Jay Warren, hey, Mark and Janice, I'm feeling ill today. Hopefully you can all help me feel better. We're sending you some positive theta potato energy, Jay. We hope you feel better. Janice has got her theta potato too, right,
I've
Janice?
got mine right
There
here.
you go. And we want you to feel better, Jay. So get well, okay? Thank you so much. Next one here. Okay, this is from Mark Watt. Do you believe that the lawyers have set it up that Miscavige can't be removed, even if somebody did try to put him in a hole, like he legally has corporate papers set up for he cannot be moved? And we kind of can't answer that earlier, but I can tell you how the corporations were set up because I was on several of them. And what they do is they set up, different officers. Like I was an officer, I think, on one or two of them. But when you're made an officer of the corporation, you actually sign an undated resignation that they keep in a safe. So that way, if you ever blow if you ever go anywhere, all they have to do is date it, and you're taken off the corporation. Did you ever have to do anything like that, Janice?
Yeah, I was actually on the board of directors for CSI, Church of Scientology International, but I never had to sign a resignation paper. I know other people did, but they didn't with me. And when I did escape, they had to, of course, replace me, but I'd never resigned. Here I am 30 something years later, and I still never resigned, but so what?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, but he has it set up that it would be very difficult for them to take him down, and that's all the lawyers doing and how they set it up. Thank you very much for your question, Mark. All right, we have super chat. Thank you, John. Have either of you spent time at FCDC? Any stories? FCDC is the founding church of Scientology in Washington, D.C. And I can tell you that's where I got into Scientology. That's where I got in. My dad got into Scientology in 1973. And I followed him a year later when I was 14, 15 years old. And I actually got into the church there in Washington, D.C. the day or the weekend after they had moved into their location on S Street. They'd been on the original building was over. I can't remember it was a numbered street, and across the street from that was the townhouse where L. Ron Hubbard and Mary Sue and all them had lived. And they still owned both of those buildings. But I got into Scientology when they moved into the big S Street building, which was over in the embassy area. And then eventually, after we left the Sea Organization, they bought another big building and moved it to, I think, close to DuPont Circle. But yeah, no, that's where I got into Scientology. Janice, you want to tell stories about your time with Washington, D.C.? I'm going to let my dog
know. It was April 1975. I did a mission to FCDC, and Dave Richards was the commanding officer or the executive director at the time. I did the mission with Foster Tompkins and Alan Buchanan. And someone actually asked me if I knew where Foster Tompkins, and I don't know. When I've talked to his sons, they've told me that he was still in, so I assume he's still working at the pubs orgs. But he does not communicate with his boys. He's got 3 boys who are out. But what, Mark?
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, anyway, so I did the mission to DC, and here's Candy. Come on in. I did the mission, and I will come back to this story as soon as I introduce Bent and Candy to you both. They just want to say hello.
We just got out of the pool.
Okay, and I've already shown them your book, Bent.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so here's Candy and here's Bent. Just say hello to everyone.
Everyone, hello. Okay.
Aloha.
Hi, Ben Corridon.
Hi,
And Bent,
Mark.
Bent didn't you start the Riverside mission?
Yes,
Didn't you
Bent
start
started the Riverside mission.
Okay.
He's
Yes.
asking. He can.
Yeah, he had one of the largest missions in California at the time, and one of the main feeders into Scientology in the 70s, right?
Yes, yes.
He had the largest mission in the whole United States. Isn't that right, Ben?
Well, in the world.
In the world.
In the world, there we go. And then
Anyway, I just wanted them to say hello and pop their heads in. And
Did you show what Ben used to
I
look like?
I showed. Yep. Oh, here's what Bent looked like in his younger days.
There
Look
you
at
go.
that handsome dude. I met him when I was 17. He took me to Disneyland with another friend.
Yay. Very cool.
All right. Thanks
Good to
for
see you all.
guys.
That's great.
Yeah. All right. So let me go back to Washington, D.C. So Dave Richards was the commanding officer. Greg and Sandy Wilhare. Well, Sandy was pregnant with Darius at the time, so they'd been sent from the ship to Washington, D.C. Sandy was the LRH communicator, and Greg was the keeper of tech. So we were to work with them on the mission, and we were running into trouble with Dave Richards. He just wasn't getting things done. So I requested he be removed, and they sent Bill Franks. So we put Bill Franks on post, and Ray Thacker was there as the flag representative, and Greg and Sandy.
And Jeannie Franks too came in to be the senior CS.
Jeannie came after we'd left. We spent 5 weeks there on the mission. I spent my 19th birthday there in DC on that mission, and it was on S Street. And I remember when we first showed up, we were going around, where's South Street? We hadn't realized it was all alphabet. Anyway, so that's my dealings with DC, and I got an affluence mission from it.
That's great. Now, Janice, one thing that I don't think is widely known is L. Ron Hubbard actually came to Washington, D.C. during that time period or shortly thereafter, right?
Yeah, he was there in 76, around March 76 until the summer, maybe June. And that's when he then moved to California.
That's right before I graduated high school in June 1976. So L. Ron Hubbard was in the D.C. area. We had no idea.
Yeah. Well, I knew he was there.
No, I know, but I meant the Scientology public didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, John, thank you so much for your question. We'll go on to the next one here. Nerdy Girl Films question for the lovely Janice. Did your family ever get your furniture back from St. Hill, or is it still there?
Still there.
Did they still have it?
Yeah, what happened is when we joined the Sea Org, my mom didn't know where to put the furniture because we didn't have a house or anything. And she had all this. Her great-grandfather was a Supreme Court judge in Brisbane, Queensland. And so when her grandmother passed away, she inherited this beautiful dining room table and all these buffets and gold-plated dishes and silverware and all that kind of stuff. And so when we went to the Sea Org, Mom asked Ron if she could keep the stuff at St. Hill. And he said yes. And last I heard, which was 30-something years ago, the table was in the pavilion along with the buffets. But I don't know because I'm an SP.
Yeah, join the crowd here. Hold on a second here. I clicked on that by mistake. Hey, listen, Janice, I forgot. We have something to share with everybody. And, we get asked all the time about Rocky and Moose, and I forgot to show this, right? I did not show this.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we have a little short video we're going to show you of Rocky and Moose with Janice. So here you go and enjoy.
All right, sit. Good boys. Now, let's have a little bit of a talk. Did you sleep okay last night? I slept very good. You boys were very quiet. It was very good. I had a nice long sleep. Are you ready to, Rocky? Are you ready to eat? The kitty cat is already eaten. Okay. They're so good.
They're really well trained for, and you got them. They were trained like that already, right? Or did you teach them how to do
No, I did that. Yeah,
Okay,
I've been working with them.
Okay, and then not to be outdone, here's my dog, Misha.
Wait. Ready? Go get it. Good girl, Misha. Good girl. Good girl. That's a good girl. That's a good girl.
And then of course there she goes. She ignores me completely, walks right past me, and doesn't even drop the ball behind me. So that's my girl, Misha. So we just wanted to share both of those with you. We hope you enjoyed them. We've got over 200 people in the house watching right now. If you've got any questions, please write in the chat. If you want to super chat us, if you want to super sticker us, please do so. We're going to have another giveaway here, probably in another 30 or 40 minutes, of a signed autographed book by Janis. And we just gave one already to Joel McCoyne, and we're going to give another one away. So stay tuned, and we're going to go back to the questions. Okay.
Okay.
Did that one there. Okay, so this one here. This is from Vernon Salvatierra. Question: did you know Kirstie Alley? Any stories? Thank you. I didn't know her. How about you, Janis?
No, I didn't know her.
Yeah, I mean, she was in Scientology when we were still in, but she was just a celebrity. I don't even think she'd even come up to the base at that point. So
no.
Anyway, sorry, Vernon. All right, next question is Colonel Brock. Question: what nicknames have we given to Mark and Janis? I don't have a nickname, Janis. Do you have one?
No, well, I know there was some survey, or people were going back and forth earlier about the fans being the onion peelers, and then someone saying we're the peelers. So something along the line of onion peelers or peelers. But if people can let us know what they come up with, we're open.
Exactly. Okay, great. Thanks, Colonel Brock. Next question here. Mary Jean McCarthy. Question: Mark, are you a NASCAR fan? I was for a while, when it was really popular in the early 2000s, and they had, lots of named drivers. We have a big racetrack here in Las Vegas, and I went to a race there. But after a while, it actually would make me fall asleep. All the races make me fall asleep after a while. Just that, before you know it, I'm out in my chair. But I used to like Tony Stewart. That was my driver that I used to cheer for. Thanks very much for your question, Mary Jean. We'll go on to the next one. Silver Spoon, Colonel Brock, how about peelers? Okay, so that's the answer you were talking about, Janis.
Yeah.
Right. Then we got Carol Pearson. We could be peelers, all right? That's the same thing that you just talked about. And that's another peelers one. Okay, so here's the next question here. This is from McPosen. Do you have any stories about Merle Goodwin and her daughter Jill becoming the youngest clear at age 8 or 10? Do you know them, Janis?
Yeah, I know Jill Goodman. We're in touch today. Paul and I went and visited her 2021. The summer before Paul passed away, we went to New England where she lives and visited with her. She has a radio station up there. She owns racehorses. She's doing very well.
Was she a messenger on the ship? Is that the same?
Yeah, she was my roommate on the ship.
Okay.
She came aboard in 1973. She came aboard. She had originally gone to St. Hill with her mom and did the grades and the clearing course at St. Hill. And yes, she became the youngest clear in the world at 10 years old. And then they went over to Denmark, and they were on the Avon River, or the Athena. And then they came to the Apollo in 1973, where she became a messenger. And when I continue with the messenger series, there's a few messenger pictures of her with Hubbard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
saw them
yeah,
yesterday. Yeah, they're great photos. Hey,
but
thank you.
Merle passed away.
Uh-huh.
She married Mitch Spence and became Merle Spence, but she passed away many, many years ago.
Okay, great. Thank you for your question. All right, next question here is, I just did that one. Okay, next one here. Sorry. First generation never was. Question: how do you clear the planet if poor people can't join Scientology? That's a really good question. All I can say is that L. Ron Hubbard wanted to concentrate on making the able more able. That was the policy on it. Make the able more able. Okay, and they didn't give anything away. Everything had to be bought and paid for to keep exchange in. But yeah, they're not like a true church or whatever that does charity work to try and help people that don't have any money. How about you, Janice? Do you have any comment on that?
No, no. Well, people with no money are supposed to co-audit, go up the training route, get trained and co-audit, and that is how they're supposed to get up the bridge.
But that's
They're
kind of
not-
the trap, isn't it? I mean, a lot of people who didn't have any money, they would join staff because they could get it that way.
Yeah, yes, but also training was supposed to be kept reasonable in pricing so that
Yeah.
people could afford that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do a co-audit, and being an auditor makes you better anyway. I mean, that was the whole concept.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for your question. Next question. We got a super chat from Life in Sync. Thank you very much, Life in Sync, for the super chat. We appreciate it. Did either of you know Mike Silverman? He was a reg way back in AOLA, registrar. And do you know what is happening with him now? Love and appreciate you both. Janice, do you? I knew Mike Silverman when he was a reg because he's who signed me up when I did some training at the advanced organization. But Janice, do you know him at all?
I knew him when he was at the advanced organization in Los Angeles as a reg. He used to do magic tricks as part of his regging. And I heard he did leave, but I don't know where he stands currently.
Okay. Thank you so much, Life in Sync. We appreciate the super chat. Okay, we got another super chat from Mary Sue Hubbard. Thank you, Mary Sue. Ever have any dealings with Lensk brothers or other WOG professionals who help with corporate sort out? Do they effectively own a piece of Scientology? You're talking about Sherman Lensk. That's what
Yeah.
I've got a brother too. I don't know the brother's name. I didn't have any dealings with them, but they were main lawyers as far as corporate sort out and that type of thing. How about you, Janice?
Yeah, I didn't have any dealings with them, but I do not believe that they have own any piece of Scientology.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mary Sue Hubbard. We appreciate your question. And we will go to the next one. And this is from Joel McCoy. Congratulations, Joel, on winning the drawing for the book. Question: in the picture of David Miscavige in the 80s, was he taller then? Probably not. No, he's actually still short. I mean, if Heber stood up, he would have towered over him, right, Janice?
Oh, yeah.
Heber had to be over 6 feet tall. I mean,
He was about 6'1".
Yeah, I'm 6'1", but I mean, I at least was looking Heber eye to eye, but I even think he seemed a little taller than that, even to me. Anyway, Joel, thanks very much for your question. Next question here. Any more photos of COB looking dorky, chairman of the board looking dorky? Yeah, I'm sure we'll round some up and we can definitely show them to you, but that's the ones that we have to share today. I found those ones specifically from a friend of ours because I wanted to show what he looked like before he took over. Like, this is before L. Ron Hubbard died, okay? And it's after the photo we had earlier of him with Shelley. So I wanted to find a photograph of him when I started working for him, and that's what he looked like. Okay, thank you very much for your question. Next one. Love Food Kitchen. Has he had laser eye surgery? I'm just talking about David Miscavige. Has he had laser eye surgery, or does he just not wear his glasses these days? I can't imagine drinking as much Macallan's, which is a scotch, as he does. Means he can still be focused enough for contact lenses. He shifted to contact lenses, when I was working for him. Later on, he had contact lenses, and then he would take his lenses out and he'd put his glasses on. But for the public, he always had contacts. I have no idea if he had LASIK surgery. That would have been after we left. How about you, Janice?
I just know what you've said. I don't know
Okay.
anything else on it.
Okay. Thank you very much for your question. All right, we'll go to the next one here. And this one is again from Joel McCoy. Question: you said that Elrich had a gun collection. Like to hear more about that. Thinking that maybe he was not legal for him to own them. I can tell you, Janice claims that he didn't have guns on the ship or whatever, but there was a gun room that was in the villas. That was L. Ron Hubbard's gun room, and it was a place where his guns were on display. And Rick Asneran used to go in there, and they had a cleaning station, and they could clean the guns. Now, when I was there and the gun room was there, L. Ron Hubbard was not there, so I never saw him handling the guns. But then they did build a rifle range behind Bonneview, which was the house at the Gillham Hot Springs property, and it was a place where that he could do target shooting or also shoot the clay pigeons. But that's basically what I know about his gun collection. Now, Miscavige had a huge gun collection. At least this is when I was working there. I used to have to go get his guns for him out of his bedroom. But he had a collection of rifles as well as handguns. And when I was there, and I don't know about in later years, he had a loaded .38 caliber revolver in his desk drawer at all times. So that would be another reason why anybody that knew he had that would not want to try and take him over, because he had a loaded gun in his desk. Anyway, do you have anything else you want to add?
Yes, I have something to add to this.
Okay.
When we were on the ship, there was a container with guns in it that belonged to Hubbard. No, the container had not been opened. I had no idea what was in it. It was just one of the containers. I mean, on the ship we had, he had cars on the ship, he had furniture on the ship or in storage, and then it was moved to the ship. So when we ended up moving ashore and we were in Dunedin, living in King Arthur's Court, the container with the guns in it had been put in a closet, and then Hubbard ends up leaving and going to DC and then to California. And then we move out of King Arthur's Court, and there is one container left there, which nobody knew what was in it. And the people responsible, one said, oh, well, do we need to take this container? And someone says, no, there's nothing in it. Well, no one tried to move it and find that they couldn't move it. So it was left behind. And everyone's now gone. And then what happens is the owners of the building come in and find this container and open it, and it is Hubbard's gun collection.
Ah.
And there were antiques in there. There were guns not registered to him. It became a major Guardian office flap, because Hubbard owned all these guns that had been left. It was the only thing left. And a lot of people got in big trouble over this. And so those are the guns that are then on display that you're talking about.
Okay. Now I can add to I have just remembered a couple of other things too about Miscavige and guns. Okay. He got guns as gifts. Some of the rifles, he had a Mini 14, and then he got an AR-15 for a birthday gift. And I had photographs of him. They had a birthday party for him at Dana Point in California on a yacht, on a big boat that they rented. And we all went out on the ocean. And one of the gifts, Janine Boyd got from or whatever was an AR-15. And I had photographs of him, holding the gun and shooting and all that. But of course, those all got taken when I left the Sea Org, and they didn't want any photographs of pictures of him doing that. But the other thing too was that when I first started working for him, outside of his office in the middle villa was a car parking area. And there was a turnaround because you were not supposed to drive up to the upper villa, because that was the L. Ron Hubbard space. And that also was where a bunch of L. Ron Hubbard stuff was done up there. And so you had to turn around, right? So somebody from Golden Era, the estates or whatever, they put a wooden sign right across from David Miscavige and Pat Broker's office, a no parking sign on a post. And we were up late until like 6 or 7 in the morning. I think it was a Thursday when when all the reports were going up to L. Ron Hubbard. And Mark Yeager, who was the commanding officer, CMO Int, and Ray Midoff and a couple other people, they all came up to David Miscavige's office. And Miscavige told me, "Hey, Mark, go down to my bedroom and get my shotgun." So I had to go down and get his shotgun and some ammunition. And Miscavige hated that no parking sign, so he took the no parking sign, and they took turns shooting at the no parking sign with the shotgun. And there was an embankment behind it, so it wasn't like they were shooting out into the air. They actually were shooting through, and once they hit the sign, they would hit the embankment of the dirt and all that, and they destroyed the sign. They just shot it up with their shotguns, and they thought it was the funniest thing and a lot of fun. So that was my other gun story. One last one I just thought of real quickly. The International Association of Scientologists, okay? When that first started up, they had a magazine. Well, the National Rifle Association, they also had a magazine, and Miscavige made us join the National Rifle Association. Like, he would shame you into it. I didn't even own guns, and I have no problem with guns. I believe in the Second Amendment. I don't have a problem with it, but my wife wouldn't let me own a gun. If I wanted to go buy one, she wouldn't let me buy it. So I never had a gun, but we had to join the National Rifle Association. So we get these magazines, and it was when they had these famous ads in the 1980s saying Tom Selleck would be posing there with his gun. It would say, "I'm the NRA," meaning I'm the National Rifle Association. And then they have a little story about Tom Selleck and his guns and why it's a Second Amendment right and this sort of thing. Miscavige loved that so much that he had the International Association of Scientologists do ads saying, "I'm the IAS," and they would have some big donor or whatever. And they copied that straight from the National Rifle Association. So those are my stories that just popped into my head.
Okay, good.
Sorry. I hope everybody enjoyed them. I mean, I know they're detail oriented, but that's where we're at. We're at 223 people watching. Thank you very much.
Wow.
We'll go to the next question, okay? This is from Martin Ottman. Hi, Janis and Mark. Do you know anything about the current whereabouts of the flag registrars David Foster, Paul Miller, Sonia Cacavella, aka Jacques and Paul, and Kim Hickok? Greetings from Martin. I don't.
I know as of a few months ago, Dave Foster was still there. That's all I know.
Okay. And Sonia, I don't know what happened to her. I knew her before she got into the Sea Org, but yeah, I don't remember her. All right, Martin, thanks very much. Next question. Terry Ray, question: why did he think he needed a disguise? L. Ron Hubbard.
Because he thought people might recognize him, and he didn't want to be served on any of the lawsuits.
He basically was in hiding. And
Yeah.
and he thought, oh, I'm a celebrity, just like celebrities wear baseball caps and sunglasses,
Well, also when we first came to the U.S., we were sailing from Bermuda, and we were going to go into Charleston. And somehow it was found out about, and we crossed from international water into the U.S. water. And I'm on the bridge with the Commodore at the time, and the radio man comes up and says, Jane Kember is on the radio. And it's like, why would Jane Kember be calling us? She's the guardian in England at St. Hill. So I tell the Commodore, and so we go down to the radio room, and Jane is telling us to turn around. There are NARC agents and IRS agents on the dock waiting to board as soon as we arrive in Charleston. So, of course, we immediately go back up to the bridge and turn around and get back into international waters, and then figure out where we're going to go now. And that's when we ended up down in the Bahamas. But I know, I believe it was in Hawaii that the person got tipped off about this. And yeah, so they were going to arrest us, or who knows, plant drugs on the ship. But drugs were a no-no, and they'd never find anything. So if they would have, it would have been planted. So that's one of the reasons why he would try to not look like himself.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Terry Ray, for your question. And we'll go on to the next one. Super sticker from Veronica Bombria. Thank you so much, Veronica, for the super sticker. We really appreciate it, and it helps us to put out these videos. If anybody else wants to super chat us or super sticker us, please do so. It's going to a good cause, and we're trying to get our stories out, so we really appreciate it. And we'll go to the next one. Thank you so much, Veronica. Okay, we have 228 people in here watching right now, and so we're still rolling. Next question, Carol Pearson. Although there may not have been SA committed by Elron, him having young girls around him being submissives at his beck and call, that's extremely abusive if you consider child development. SA, is that sexual? I don't know what SA is, but anyway.
I don't know.
Sexual assault, probably.
Okay.
So she's saying having young girls around and being submissive at his beck and call, that's extremely abusive if you consider child development. Yeah, I mean, Janis, you've even said, you wouldn't, at 12 years old, you wouldn't have had your daughter working for
no way. No.
Yeah. No,
even at 17, I wouldn't be okay with it.
Yeah, we don't defend it. That was back then. That was in the 70s, and that was what their parents were doing on the children on the ship. They had guardians and all that. But Hubbard, according to the reports, never did anything, out of line as far as that goes. But then he worked them, 6 hours a day at those ages. That's a lot of work for a young child, and they didn't get any education, meaning they didn't get their high school diplomas or anything like that. And so, absolutely, it was abusive. And do you feel the same way, Janis?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I lived it. So I lived as a slave, and I would not support it. And I actually sometimes think, other adults, I mean, there were adults on the ship. Why didn't they say anything? But I'm sure they didn't want to, or they feared it. Or some of them didn't even think it was an issue until they left. And we're sitting around talking. They're like, I wish I'd done something for you kids. So they regret not having done anything to protect us. But there was no sexual abuse, that I'm aware of, at least not with myself. And the other messengers I've talked to, there was none for them.
No, and then you did mention the story about what Amanda Ambrose's son, right? And that was a separate deal, and he actually got caught and got dealt with, correct?
Yeah, he was offloaded, and then also there was another incident where a guy who was 21 slept with I believe a 15-year-old. He thought she was 16, but when Mary Sue found out, she strapped on her knife and put on her cap and went and held that knife at his throat and told him to get off the ship. I mean, She would not tolerate anything like that.
Okay, Carol, thank you so much for your question. We'll go on to the next one here. This is from Bola Ah. Question, do you guys have plans to interview Hannah Whitfield? She was also on the ship. Was it during your time, Janis? Go ahead, Janis.
Yes. Hannah is a good friend, and I actually visited with her in February of this year. And we chat all the time. I call her, she calls me. We're on very good terms, and I'm sure we'll have Hannah on here. Her husband recently passed away, and she's still, tidying up things from that and ending cycle and different things. And once that's done, we'll talk about getting her on here. But before I talk to her about that, Mark and I have so many other people also lined up that I'm kind of, okay, well, all right, maybe in 6 months, but we got to figure it all out and schedule interviews with other old timers.
Right. Speaking of which, our next video, which we're going to release on Wednesday, is our interview with Ken Urquhart, who was the former L. Ron Hubbard personal communicator at St. Hill on the flagship Apollo and at the Flag Land Base. He also was L. Ron Hubbard's butler at St. Hill, and he's got stories to tell. And so we already recorded an interview with him, but we decided we needed to put out a video first about the history of St. Hill, which we did last week. So we'll be putting that out on Wednesday, and then hopefully we'll have other former Sea Org members and Scientologists that want to be interviewed, and I'm sure they have lots of stories to tell. Right, Janice?
Yes, they do.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your question. Next question here, Shay Anderson. Question: I can't get Super Chat to work on my phone. Oh, I'm sorry about that. That's okay. We'll still answer your questions. Claire and Mark talked about Shelley being able to take DM down with her LRH CMO creed. Thoughts? I don't think Shelley, I mean, I've watched the stories and stuff. Yeah, she has a lot of information on all that. And Mike Rinder seems to think that, if the other senior executives would rally around Shelley, that they could take over or get in charge. I don't think Shelley's that strong, to be honest with you.
She's not.
My dealings with her, she's not a leader type. She's not somebody that's that strong. I really, really regret the situation that she's in. I mean, we would welcome her tomorrow if she showed up at our door, and we would help her, right, Janice?
Oh, absolutely. I'd help anybody. And some people don't realize this, but people in the Sea Org can become a different person than who they really are. And then when they leave, they become themselves again. And they're not so nasty and dog eat dog type of a person. There's like a switch. And you find and meet the real person afterwards.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for your question, Shay. We really appreciate it. Next question is from Brandy Mulvaney. Question: where will there be an interview with Bent or when will there be an interview with Bent and Candy? Janice?
Candy and I have been talking about it, but we won't be doing an interview with Bent. He's in his 80s and he has a hard time hearing, and it would just be very hard. But that's why I recommend read his book. He's a great guy, and he has, he only met Hubbard once on the ship, but he did a lot of research with Nibs and Sarah, which is very fascinating in itself because nobody else has done that.
Right. Brandy, thank you so much for your question. Love Sherlock, here's the next question. How nice that so many of ex-Scientologists have reconnected and are real friends now. That's the way I feel about it. I mean, I'm really happy that I have a lot of ex-Scientology and ex-Sea Org member friends. And it's great because, you see somebody after 30 years, in some cases 33 years for me, and it's like it was last week that I last saw them. A lot's transpired, but, we still have that connection. How about you, Janice?
Yeah, being on the ship, a lot of us became very close, and we were kind of like family. I had no other family. I had my sister and my brother, and I didn't see my brother that much. So we all kind of substitute for that. And even when we leave, we always connect up and stay in touch. And like I did a 7-week road trip this year with another friend, Cheryl. She just lost her husband 2 months before I lost Paul.
Yeah.
So we were like, let's go create our own memories without them. And we did plus 9,000 miles, 19 states, 46 towns, and we visited with 110 people. And it was a trip of a lifetime. We had a great time. And this is the trip where I saw Hannah. And I saw John Brousseau, and I saw Ira Shaloff and Ronnie Miscavige, just a whole bunch of people that I knew and kind of grew up with. And it was fun.
Great. Thank you so much, Love Sherlock. We'll go to the next question. Rep Jackalope. Hey, thank you so much for the super chat. We really appreciate it. Is Heber still alive? Where is he now? What are your thoughts on free zone independent Scientology? Janice?
As far as I know, Heber is still alive. I have heard that he was put in a assisted living or an old folks home. Kind of hard to find because he could be there under a different name. So I don't know where he is, but that is the last I had that I'd heard, where someone in one of these comments made a comment that he died in 2019. I don't know. I have no verification of that. All I know is that there was a tip that he was in a old folk home.
Okay.
And
Thank you so much.
what are your thoughts on the free zone independent Scientology?
Mhm.
People are welcome to do whatever they want,
Yeah,
as long as it doesn't hurt someone.
yeah, that's the way we feel about it. I mean, if somebody wants to follow Scientology but not be part of Scientology, the organization, more power to them. We're not, who are we to judge? People can pick and choose what they want to do as far as the technology goes. We can't tell people what to believe and what not to believe. So that's how we feel about it.
Right.
Thank
And
you
if
so
they
much.
feel it helped them, it helped them. I'm not going to
Yeah.
say it didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for your question. Okay, super chats, SPTV Zeno. Thank you so much. You two have amazing stories, so well told. Thank you so much. Janis is the superstar here. She's the one that's got all the the long-term information. I've got some of it, but yeah, we enjoy telling our stories, right, Janis?
Yeah. Oh, I am so loving this. It helps me with my memory as I get older. I'm not going to lose my memory because you guys are working it.
Well, it helps me too, because like even when they're asked about the guns, I had forgotten about the story about the advertising for the International Association of Scientologists. So it helps my memory too. But yeah, no, we saw a lot of stuff, and we're happy to share it. So thank you very much for that super chat, super sticker, and we'll go to the next one here. Thank you again for another super chat, Michelle Carpenter. Found out after already being aware of the Church of Scientology that my uncle was what mom called a Scientology minister in the 1970s. I'm sure the terminology is different, but any idea what that might have meant? Yeah, well, basically Scientology, was, this is before it was declared a religion by the Internal Revenue Service, but they claim they're the Church of Scientology. And so in order to maintain and a public image of being Scientologists, they had anybody who was a counselor, a processor, or who did the one-on-one counseling, they would become ministers. And I actually was a minister. You had to do the minister course, and then you would get ordained in the Church of Scientology. And then there were certain people that were staff members who, when they went out to public relation events, they actually wore the black shirt with the white collar, like you would see a priest or something like that. And the idea was to maintain a religious image by having a chapel, although there was never any services or anything like that. So that's probably what she's referring to, is that your uncle probably was a Scientology auditor. That's what it's called. And if you were an auditor, you had to get ordained as a minister. Janis?
Yeah, you've said it. I don't
Okay.
need to.
Also, I performed 3 marriages.
Did you?
I did, including in Hawaii.
Yeah. Well, my
Grady
mother.
Johnston, we went to Hawaii, and I married them on a ship or a boat off the coast of Lahaina.
Yeah, my mother was a minister, and so was Heber and my father, and they did weddings for people. They christened babies.
Yeah.
They did celebrations of life.
Hey, Michelle Carpenter, thank you so much for that super chat, and we'll go to the next question here. Okay, question. Dastardly Saboteur, question. When you get together with former Scientologists, do you talk about these old stories, or do you get tired of them? Go ahead, Janis.
No, I don't get tired of them. No. I mean, I'm being asked these questions, and I've written 2 books on them, and I enjoy it. It's different, and people seem to like the stories. If they were boring, I wouldn't be telling them or rehashing them. But I do not regret the way I was raised. I'm not a victim, and I like to make the better of things. And so I'm taking that abuse, that slavery, the lifestyle I had, and I'm telling the story and laughing about it.
That's a big thing for me. I mean, when we get together, like Janis and I, we're around each other all the time. We don't talk about these stories when we're not doing these shows, right? But like when we get together, we're like Mark and Claire Headley, or people like that. We tell stories about things we remember, and we laugh about it, the outrageous, crazy things that went on, and we get some really good belly laughs because of how ridiculous it was. Right, Janice?
Exactly. Well, laughing is a rejection, you know.
Yeah,
So we're laughing at the insanity of it all.
right. Exactly right. Thank you so much for your question. We'll go to the next one here. Okay, ex-Scientologist, have you heard of a mission holder in Orange County named Jeff or John Woodruff? It was John Woodruff. Or another mission holder in Redondo Beach, South Bay, California, and Long Beach, California from the 70s. Yeah, John Woodruff, he was the mission holder for the Orange County organization, mission first, and then he turned it into an organization. It became the size, you know, it was determined to be one of the size of old St. Hill organizations, right, Janice?
Yeah, but actually before Woodruff, Ray and Pam Kemp were the mission holders, the original mission holders of Orange County.
Okay.
And they were, I believe, English, and they were like best friends with Ron and Mary Sue in London, and ended up coming to the U.S. and becoming mission holders. And they would come to the ship every now and again for cleanup. Pam shared a cabin with me while she was there, and I became a good friend of hers. But yeah, they ended up getting removed and in trouble because Hubbard found out they had been using staff in lower conditions to go and clean their house and do things for them personally rather than for the mission to enhance Scientology. But it was like, go and do your 12 hours amends at the Kemp's house. So they got in trouble for that, and eventually the mission was taken away from them. But Ray Kemp actually wrote a book, I believe, on the second dynamic. I have it on my bookshelf somewhere. So I'll maybe pull that out and another time talk about that.
Okay. Thank you so much for your question. Next one, Love for Kitchen. Mark, this is probably a very stupid question to anyone who has been in the Sea Org, but how is your ex-wife Julie related to OSA stooge Kirsten Catano? Catano isn't exactly a common name. That's actually right, but I don't know Kristen Catano. She married my wife Julie's brother, Kevin Catano, and that's how she became a Catano. Kevin was a security guard when I was there, and he basically got into the Sea organization. He was just bumming around California, not really doing much of anything, and then eventually he joined the Sea organization and was a security guard at the Gold Base, and then I guess he became the security chief after I left, and then he married Kristen, who became, you know, some kind of OSA external person who handled people like us SPs, and I don't know that they're together anymore, but yeah, that she's related through marriage. Anyway, thank you for your question. Next one. Irma Webb, there was a story on the internet that talks of Hubbard being murdered in DC. Do you know anything about it? Heard it in the 80s too.
No, but you know, now that you brought that subject up, let me bring up another subject. There are some people out there who believe Hubbard was replaced in 1972. And I had talked to one of these people and answered all his questions. And then he was like, Janice, you're blowing apart my whole theory here. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but my dates are my dates. And Hubbard was alive and I was with him in September 1972, but you're saying he was replaced in May of 1972. Anyway, this person had interviewed myself, Ken Urquhart, other messengers, other public relations people for Hubbard. And despite all of us saying he was never replaced, he's the same person, this guy still wrote a whole book and believed that we all ganged up to get our story straight, to disagree with him, because he's still right that Hubbard was replaced in 1972. Anyway, I know for a fact he wasn't replaced in 1972. And the man that left in December 72 and went to New York and came back in September 73 is the same man. So there you have it.
All right, thanks very much. Next question. Kiwi girl Eleanor, Mark, you have huskies too. Hello from one husky owner to another. She's a beauty. Yes, she is. And I love my Misha girl, and she's a great dog, and she talks to me all the time. Any husky owner knows what I'm talking about. All right, next one here. Love Sherlock question. Why do almost all ex-Scientologists have pets, especially dogs, once they get out of the cult? Unconditional love. No, I'm just joking. Go ahead. I don't know why that is. I didn't get a dog until, gosh, probably 10, 15 years after I got out of the Sea Org, because I worked full time and I didn't want to leave a dog locked up all day, you know. So when I started working from home back in the day, when we were doing mortgages, I was able to start working from home. That's when I got my first two dogs, and then they eventually passed away. And then same thing here now. Where I live, I'm retired now, and I have time that I can spend with my dog, so that's why I have it. Janice?
Well, we had kids, and then we got a dog, and then we got a cat, and then the dog passed away, a 15-year-old lab, and then I still have the cat who's now 15, going on 16. I'll have to put a picture up of the cat. As I've said before, he is the king of the house. And then after Paul passed away, Paul didn't want any more pets. We were going to travel. But after he passed away, I didn't like coming into the house to nothing. Well, the cat was there, but it was all about him. So when I found out these two dogs needed to be rehomed, that not a lot of people are going to take an 80-pound and 140-pound Labradoodles. So I fell for them and took them. And they've just been a joy to have and work with and chill with. So that's all I have to say on that.
Okay, great. Thanks for the question, Love Sherlock. We got another question here from Kim, the vet tech. Question: did anyone have pets in the Sea Org or on the ships?
Yes. Yes.
On the ships, yeah.
On the ship, Mary Sue had a dog, a corgi, Vixie. And when Vixie passed away, she got two Tibetan Terriers. And they were the only animals on the ship except for a bird. Well, someone did get a bird once, and Mary Sue ordered the bird off the ship because they carry disease or you go from port to port. But then one of the Commodore's birthdays, the messengers got him a bird. We got him a dove.
Harmony.
Harmony.
I remember that.
At that time, the Commodore was listening to the top 100 Billboard songs, and Elton John's song Harmony was like #1. So that's when we all decided, he and the messengers decided to call the bird Harmony. And so Harmony lived on the ship for several years, and when we moved to the US, she came along with us and was in Clearwater for years.
That's where I saw her. I saw her in 1976 in Clearwater. Yeah.
Oh,
anyway.
And then to continue that, as in other pets in the Sea Org or on the ship, when we were in La Quinta, I found a mixed dog while I was on the RPF, and that dog started hanging with me, and I called it Midget. And it was part coyote from the looks of it. And then when I got out of the RPF, I brought him with me to the main base, and he just wasn't having that. So I took him back to where he was and had someone else care for him. And instead, and then a hound dog showed up, and I called her Blue Babe, or Babe for short. And Babe would follow me everywhere. Yeah. And when I go to Rifle, where LRH lived, Babe would wait outside the gate for me until I did my 6 hours of watch or went off on a message run. But she would escort me back and forth in the dark. And when the Commodore would come outside and go for a walk around the driveway or wherever, Babe would go with him and the messengers. And then when we moved to Hemet, Babe, of course, came with me. And I was actually told, while Babe was still in La Quinta, I was told Babe could not come to Hemet. There's going to be no dogs in Hemet. So I went out to X, where the Commodore was. And while I was on watch, I got a recording of me and him having a conversation about Babe. And he knew Babe. And so he was totally fine on her coming. And then when she had puppies, she had 12 puppies. I told him about all the puppies. And he was telling me, oh, do this and do that to train them and feed them protein and make sure you give them eggs. And so I kept that tape. I don't have it anymore. When I left, they took it. But that was my evidence that I had the Commodore's approval to have Babe at the base.
That's a great story. Thank you so much, Kim the Vet Tech. We'll go to the next one here. Love Food Kitchen again. I have no idea how Misha copes with Las Vegas temperatures. It was a warm day in West Sussex today, but not a touch on Nevada temperatures, and my 2 huskies barely moved all day. Yeah, it's really hot. We get up to 110, 115 in the summertime, and I keep, she stays inside, and when I walk her in the shade, and it's very hot for her. They drop their coat at certain times, but she loves to lay on the kitchen floor because it's nice and cool. And I have a cooling pad that I put inside of her bedroom that she can sleep on as well, which helps to reduce her temperature. But yeah, it is difficult, but she manages to cope. All right, next question here. Witness, who is John McMaster? In old adverts, it says he was the first clear in Scientology.
Yeah. In Scientology, one of the steps is, you're supposed to build up and take different Scientology services to get clear. And in 1966, I believe it was, John McMaster was the first person to be acknowledged as having achieved the state of clear. And he was then sent on a tour around the world to promote more Scientology services because he was clear.
Okay. Thank you so much for your question. We have 278 people in here. It keeps growing, people watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. It helps us get the word out. Click that like button and notification button. You'll be notified anytime we have a new video coming out. But we just went over 4,000 subscribers. We want to get up, into the stratosphere. So if you haven't subscribed, it's real simple. Just click that subscribe button. And we're going to do a giveaway of another one of Janis's books here. Let's see, we'll probably do it in about another 15 minutes, okay? Where you'll have a chance and a random chance where Janis is going to give away an autographed book, okay? So stick around for that, and we'll go to the next question here. And thank you for the super chat. This is a super chat from Love Sherlock. Just to let Janis know that I'm jealous she has a horse or horses.
I have one horse. My sister has 8. So, yeah, I just have one.
How old is Mooney?
Mooney is now 25 years old. I've had her for 17 years, and I ride her. I used to ride her 3 times a week. Right now, I'm slowing it down to 2 times a week because of her age, but she's still in really good shape.
Great.
She's a quarter horse. And her name is Mooney, which is short for Moon Shining Over Me.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Love Sherlock. We appreciate the super chat. Anybody else wants to super chat, please do so. Okay, next one, Nerdy Girl Films. Not a specific question, but can you talk about Colonel Webspread? We've been fascinated by him since learning about it in your book, Janis.
Colonel Webspread was a duck. And the Commodore wrote out the outline of the stories, and Richard Gorman, who was the LRH artist, would then draw the comic strips of the Colonel Webspread according to what LRH had written out and giving these stories. And these two, the Commodore and Richard, would send communications back and forth in sealed envelopes so that the messengers couldn't sneak a peek and see what's the story and what's the next one. And, so it was kept from us as well. It was like top secret between Richard and LRH. And Colonel Webspread would give the weather report, so we know if a storm is coming or we got good weather, and it was just a fun comic strip that was put in the orders of the day for everyone to read, and people would look forward to it. And you try and figure out who were the different people that were being characterized in the story.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that question. And we'll go to the next one. This is from Frank V. Question: are Sea Org members able to obtain clear or any OT levels considering how much time and money it takes? If not, how do they justify that? I got up all the way up. When I joined the Sea Organization at 18 years old, I had already done my lower grades at a Scientology organization. But then from the point I was in the Sea Organization till when I left 13 years later, I got all the way up to, OT, what was considered new OT7 at that time, and I was auditing on solo knots. So I was able to do that on my regular study time and also get my regular enhancement. Now, I will say this, I had an advantage because I was in a senior position and they would audit people and you'd get your processing based on seniority, meaning I was I worked for Miscavige for 6 years. And so I got audited and I made it up the bridge. How about you, Janice?
Yes. Well, as a messenger, I was given priority, but on the ship, we didn't have public. So the auditors that were trained or in training, all their PCs were the crew members. So the whole idea was to get everybody up to OT. At first, you couldn't even join the Sea Org unless you were above clear or above. And then there was that requirement was changed and people came in. And we ended up with people who had no auditing or no training. They were like, they just stopped smoking pot a week before and they came to the ship. And those people, they on the 2.5 hours of study time, they studied and they co-audited or they got audited by the trained auditors.
And when I was in the Sea Organization, that was one of the attractions of joining the Sea Organization. I was going to take advantage of my 2.5 hours of study time each day. So I did my training. I got trained up as an executive. I got my auditing. And I mean, I was a Scientologist. That's why I was there. And that was part of the exchange of being there, was getting trained and getting up the bridge. So I didn't skip my study time or sleep or do whatever, And Janice and I both talked about this too. And it's no criticism of the other people who have channels and who talk out and that type of thing. But very few of them ever got up any Scientology auditing. Most of them got security checks and that type of thing. And it was very, very bad. They didn't even go to study time, or they didn't get it because they were being made to work such long hours. So, they have different viewpoints on the Scientology technology than we do. But that's just everybody's experience was different. That's all. Anything else, Janice, on that?
Nope.
Okay, next question. Did LRH's parents ever become Scientologists? Janice?
No, they did not.
All right.
HRH, Harry Ross Hubbard, did come to the ship, but he was not a Scientologist.
Okay. Next question, Veronica Bombria. What's a WOG? WOG stands for Worthy Oriental Gentleman. Okay, that's what it actually is. And in Scientology's terms, that meant anybody that was non-Scientologist, basically anybody in the real world, they were WOGs. You were either a Scientologist or you were a WOG. And it was a derogatory term, apparently, back in the 50s or 60s or whatever, towards Oriental people. But that's what we called them. They were called WOGs. Next question. Sander Braun, hello, and thanks for presenting all this great material. Question: if there is no St. Hill Special Briefing course, how are Class 8 auditors being made, or are they borrowing them from the free zone? They are not making any Class 8s right now. That's canceled too.
But the SHSBC was to make Class 6 auditors. So
right, but then you had to do the briefing course to do the Class 8 course.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, no, they canceled all that. They're not making it. They're not doing anything to process people or to expand Scientology at all. They just want money. That's all they're trying to do. Next question, the Mena. Do you know anything about a book out? Oh, sorry. Do you know anything? The book he claimed to have written called Excalibur. Oh, do we know anything about the LRH book that he claimed to write called Excalibur? He claimed it was so powerful people killed themselves after reading it. No, I don't know anything about it. He talked about it. I'm reading about it again in Barefaced Messiah, the Russell Miller biography of L. Ron Hubbard. But, I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, he thought it was lost, but actually once all his stuff was gotten from DC and gone through, it was found. And I guess it's locked up somewhere now.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. Next one. Hannah Reynolds, did LRH ever call himself Admiral, Rear advice or otherwise. Well, the issue that came out when he died that made Pat and Annie Broker loyal officers, he promoted himself supposedly from the Commodore to Admiral, right?
Yeah, supposedly. But as I stated before, I do not believe that issue written promoting Annie and Pat to first and second loyal officers was written by him and promoting himself to Admiral. He was the Commodore, and he wouldn't do that.
Right. Thank you for the question. Next question here. Okay, Brandy Mulvaney, what was the longest you spent just at sea, just sailing?
Oh, I guess it was about a month that we sat at sea anchor. We had nowhere to go, and we just sat at sea anchor and rolling around in the waves.
What was the longest voyage you went on when you crossed the Atlantic?
Yeah, that was 9 days crossing the Atlantic. But this, we just went off the coast of Africa, and we just sat there eating powdered eggs and powdered potatoes and powdered milk. Everything was powdered from the emergency stores. And we worked on renovating the ship during the day. There was no management on the ship. Auditing was happening and training was happening, and everybody else was just working on chip and paint and strip and varnish and revarnishing rails.
Great. And also you cover crossing the Atlantic in your book too, right? In the second book?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, she covers in detail crossing the Atlantic, the 9-day voyage across. And so you can read that in Commodore's Messenger book 2. We're going to be giving away a book here in just a few minutes. If you have any questions, please, last ones, go ahead and put them in. We're going to cut them off here shortly because otherwise we'll be here all night. We have 268 people still in the watching, and we really appreciate y'all being here. So go ahead. We're going to give away a book here in a few minutes, and so we appreciate that. And if you have any last questions, go ahead and get in there, and Janice, go ahead and star if you see anything. We'll go to the next question here. Verity Love, do either of you regret joining Scientology or staying in as long as you, do either of you regret joining Scientology or staying in as long as you did? I don't regret anything. You know, I grew as a person. You know, the choices that I made, I was you know, right out of high school. So it wasn't like forced on me as a child. I chose to go into Scientology. I chose to get my auditing and my training at the time, and I chose to join the Sea organization. Now, was that the right thing to do? Probably not, you know, in hindsight, but I'm not going to regret it because look at all the great friends and people that I've met. Look at all the things that I got to do. I've done stuff that most people never, ever would get a chance to do in my short time in the Sea organization, from building a music studio to recording albums to shooting movies, you know, to expanding organizations and managing them, to doing all sorts of stuff that, you know, I didn't experience any place else. I've met celebrities, not that that's what I was trying to do, but you know, the average person doesn't meet a lot of celebrities, and we met a lot of celebrities and got to deal with them and stuff like that. So I don't regret any of that. I wish it, you know, we talked about it earlier that if Miscavige, you know, wasn't abusing everybody and doing that, I would have never left back then. Now I can't say that I would have stayed for 33 more years because that's a long time, but that's how I feel about it. How about you, Janice?
Well, I was born in it, so
Right.
I had no choice. My parents were in it nearly 3 years before I was born. So, and then joining the Sea Org, I had no choice. It was at 11 years old. I signed the contract so I have a place to stay, or I get sent off to I don't know where because I had mother on one ship and my father was back in England. So who knows? But I don't have regrets. I've enjoyed my life. I've enjoyed my friends. I think I've become who I am through all the trial and error and growing up and everything. But I wouldn't be who I am. And yeah, I don't have regrets.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for the question there, Verity Love. And Janice, why don't we go ahead? We'll go ahead and do the second giveaway on your book. Why don't you hold up the book again? Is this one going to be book 2 or which one are we doing?
Whatever they need, because if you already have book 1 and you want book 2, then whatever you need.
Okay, everybody start loading up the chat. If you want, we're going to randomly count down and pick somebody. Well, Janice is going to give you an autographed book of your choice and send it to you. So everybody load up in the chat right now, say me, or book me, or I want a book, or whatever here. And we're going to do a countdown, all right, just like we did before. Joel McCoy already won a book, and we're going to see if we can get somebody else in there, all right? So just go ahead, and I'm going to count down from, 5, 4, 3, that type of thing again, and then I'll pick somebody, and it's just going to be a random pick. So go ahead and load up the chat if you want to, win an autographed book from Janice, okay? You ready, Janice?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here it is. Richard Herrera, Richard Herrera. Thank you so much. Congratulations. You're going to get an autographed copy of one of Janice's books. Janice, tell him how he can contact you and what he needs to do.
Email me at Janis Gillham Grady, JANISGILLHAMGRADY at gmail.com. And email me so I have your contact information. If you want a personalized autograph in there, let me know, and I'll need your address and everything in order to send it to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Richard. Congratulations. And congratulations to everybody else. We still have 266 people in here. We have a few more questions that we're going to answer, so stay tuned here, and we'll get back to the questions, all right? Next question from Claire B. What do you think about how Scientology treated Mary Sue Hubbard in the end, Janice?
Poorly.
Yeah.
She did not deserve how she was treated.
Right.
She had her faults, but she also was an amazing woman, very loyal, very supportive, dedicated.
She took the fall for Hubbard and went to jail for him, and then basically he didn't want to have anything to do with her after she got out. And then, after he died, basically he gave her a pittance as far as inheritance with all the hundreds of millions of dollars that he had. And he treated her very poorly, and it's sad. Thank you, Claire. Next question, Cece. I worked since age 6, long hours and very strenuous. I didn't get much education until I got into Scientology at 21. Totally opposite. Great. Thank you so much, Cece, for sharing that with us. We'll go to the next one here. Life in Sync. Is Amanda Ambrose still around? I got to know her and her daughter Herbie. Really liked them.
No, Amanda passed away.
Okay. You don't have any other details when it was or anything like that?
No, it was several years ago.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that question. We'll go to the next one here. My TV question. Do you think Hubbard would handle the Danny Masterson affair differently than DM? And if so, how? That's a good question.
Absolutely.
Huh?
One, he would have RPF DM for doing what he did by being involved and not handling it. And 2, Danny would have been kicked out and declared and disconnected from for that.
Do you think that if Scientology found out the truth, do you think that they would turn it over to the authorities to investigate, the police?
Well, that wouldn't have been Hubbard himself, but if he found out, it would have been turned over to the Guardian's office to get it handled.
But do you think if he found out that they hadn't, he would have made them give it over?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Yep. Okay,
thanks for your question, My TV. We'll go to the next one here. Rosemarie question, how was the food on board the Apollo? Did LRH eat the same food that you ate? You guys rock. Thanks, Rosemarie. Go ahead, Janice.
He used to eat the same food as us, and then when on the Avon River he did, and then on the Apollo, his cook came over from St. Hill. So John Henry used to make different food for him. And then, but at the same time, he ate with all of his aides, but then the aides would have to wait for him because he'd like to finish what he was doing before he'd go down and eat. So he was moved to a lounge, which was set up as a lounge and a dining room for him. And he ate there with Mary Sue. Sometimes someone might be invited in to eat with him, very rare. And then one of the stewards put in having the children come and eat with him. And they did that until, again, the kids had to stand around and wait for him, but they had jobs. So, but he had separate food. He had a separate purchaser who went ashore and purchased his food. So he did not get food like us. And we actually did not have food that was that great. We had local food from Morocco, Portugal, Spain, Greece, whatever. And then in the later years, we started ordering it from Rotterdam, Holland. And that definitely was an improvement. And that was Sven Peterson, who we talked about earlier, who was the purchaser and arranged all that.
Okay. So, thank you so much, Rosemary. We will rock on. Okay. Next question here. Super chat from Bernice Dooley. Your likes are amazing compared to watchers. That must mean people liking our video or our channel. And that's great. We appreciate everybody who likes our video or also who watches. And please, if you watch our other ones, if you like this one, I mean, we tell lots of stories about lots of things that, maybe we don't cover in the question and answers, but you can watch our videos. Just go to our channel and watch them and like them. And we really appreciate it. Subscribe to our channel. That's great too. And if you want to super chat us anymore, please do. We're happy with that too. It helps get us, like I said, it helps us get the word out. So thank you so much for that, Bernice. We'll go to the next question here. Nerdy Girl Films. Go ahead. Question, is Janis' second book going to be available in audio format?
One of these days. I've now got the microphone to do it. I just have to get the time. And once I've got the time and push myself, I will get it done. I got to figure out how to do it. Unless there's someone out there who wants to give me a call and say, this is what you do. But I have done some searching on Google and trying to figure it out and get it set up.
Okay. Next question. Joel McCoy, he was the winner of our first book. Janis, my first and only connection with the Church Scientology was in '68 until I was able to say this is BS and not have any other connection. Great to hear stories from way back. Thank you so much, Joel.
Great.
We appreciate it. Next question. Danny Crook. Vegan 3, I didn't ever actually think about the circumstances what led to her being put under his guardianship. I've never encountered any. I don't even know. That's not even a question for us. Somebody made a comment.
He never even encountered any info about my parents. So, Danny, my mother was Yvonne Jentz. She was the commanding officer and started Celebrity Center in Los Angeles and internationally. My father was Peter Gillham, who was one of the top Scientology lecturers. And also he was a mission holder in Phoenix, Arizona. And he later got into nutrition and was the developer of Natural Calm. And they were very dedicated and loyal Scientologists. And that's how we ended up on the ship. And then my parents were sent off on different things, or my dad left, and we were left on our own for 8 years.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question, Jay Dice. Janis, can you explain what you mean by christening babies in Scientology?
Yeah, in Scientology, as a religion, they have a book of ceremonies, and the minister would do a christening. There's a ceremony that's written out on what you say, welcoming the baby, and introducing the baby to their parents. And that's done as a ceremony.
Yeah, that's correct. All right. Thanks, Jay Dice. We appreciate your support. We appreciate that. Next question is, actually, didn't Shelley have 2 dogs? Did they go with her everywhere she went? Well, when I worked for her and David Miscavige, they did. They had 2 dogs that they got, Chesley and Chelsea. They were 2 beagles, okay? And they basically hung out between our 2 offices. We had a connecting door, and they just would, hang out on the floor in our offices and all that. They were great dogs. Chesley was very loud and barked very loud. Chelsea was a sweetheart, the female, right? The only thing I remember about them, though, is that Miscavige and Shelley would work to all hours of the day or night. And it was required that before we went home, meaning his staff, they would go home and go to bed. But before we could go home and go to sleep, we had to walk Chesley and Chelsea and watch them do their business outside before we could put them in their bedroom for the night. Now, now that I've had dogs, I realize that they have a routine and you can pretty much tell they have a cycle in terms of when they go. But we had no idea. I didn't have a dog. So we literally would be sitting out there, and they could have gone to the bathroom a half an hour or hour beforehand. But not me, that there was other girls that worked in it. They could be sitting out there for 20, 30, 40 minutes and the dog doesn't do anything, so it was a funny deal. Okay, thanks for the question on that one. Duchess of Chug. When did she tell the Theta Potato story, Janice? When did you tell your Theta Potato story? I got my Theta Potato right here. So does Janice.
I think it was in part 3 of the LRH messengers.
I think it was part 2.
Well, you're gonna. Duchess, you're going to have to go and watch part 1, 2, and 3 to find the potato story.
I don't think it's in 1, but it's definitely in 2 or 3. And it's has to do with a bunch of U.S. sailors flirting with a bunch of cute girls, and starts with nuts and bolts and ended with potatoes. Thanks very much for that. Okay, next question here. Jennifer Kane Najor. Sorry to bring up Heber Gents again. I've been folding laundry and listening. I read that he has 42 siblings, Mormon family. Do you know if he continued practicing Mormonism at all?
Yes, he had 41 brothers and sisters. There was 42 of them. There was a total of 8 wives, only 6 at one given time. So it was 1973, my first time to the U.S., when I believe the 42nd child was born. It was a girl. So it ended up with 20 boys and 22 girls, I believe it was. But yeah, his father was a fundamentalist. And in the 50s, Carl Gents actually went to prison for polygamy. And it was a man who had 5 wives himself that turned Carl in.
Sorry, I'm messing it up here. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no, he did not continue practicing Mormonism because he became a Scientologist instead.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. All right. Next one here this is from Michelle Carpenter, Super Chat. Thank you so much, Michelle. Crazy late chat, but my uncle was possibly considered a celebrity, and he lived in Phoenix. So I must ask, ever hear of Sanford Sandy Gibbons?
No.
No, I'm sorry. We don't know who that is. I never heard of them. I'm sorry, Michelle. We appreciate your support, though, and thank you so much for the Super Chat. And we'll go to the next question here. And this is from Deanna Ross. Where are the Hubbard kids today, and why don't they speak out?
Okay, Diana, the oldest one, is still in the Sea Org. Quentin, of course, is no longer with us. Suzette lives in the Los Angeles area, as does Arthur. With Suzette and Arthur they are out of Scientology, but they're still in good standing. And my understanding on that is because with Diana still in, they behave in order to still be able to communicate with their sister.
Okay, great. Thank you so very much for that, Deanna Ross. And then we've got a question here from Colonel Brock. Were or are you 2 smokers? I never have smoked a cigarette in my life. How about you, Jan?
I smoked, the messenger smoked on the ship, and I smoked afterwards, and I stopped smoking in 1988, I believe it was.
Yeah, and you're happy you did, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, Mark, that was when we used to play basketball, and I would go down, and I'm like, huffing and puffing. That's when I'm got to stop smoking. And I just kept playing basketball and stopped smoking and haven't looked back. It was a great choice.
Fabulous. Well, that brings up the next thing we were going to share with everybody here is Janice has another business, Outback Naturals, which is a supplement business. Janice, tell everybody about that.
Yeah, my my main products, I'm working on more, but right now I sell the original. Okay, I sell Qualicom, which is very similar to what my dad developed, and he actually helped me develop this. It's a magnesium product, and it helps one sleep better, and it just kind of gets the whole body, gives more energy and so forth. And there's 400 milligrams of magnesium. I have it in both plain and in apple cinnamon. I take the apple cinnamon every night with other vitamins like B1 and vitamin C. And then this is the Instant Cal Mag. It's the original formula of calcium versus magnesium, 2-to-1. And it just, if you already have a lot of calcium in your diet, you take the Calm. If you don't have calcium in your diet, you take the Cal Mag.
All right.
And then this is plant source minerals. These are humates, which have about 72 trace minerals in them. And this helps with the gut health, and it's antiviral and just a general overall help with the body. It's from plants that died thousands and thousands of years ago, and they're full of minerals and nutrients.
And how can if somebody wants to order any of these things, what do they do?
They can go online at outbacknaturals.com, or they can go on Amazon or eBay. Those are the only places I sell them. Oh, I do sell also on Vites.com, VITES.com, which also sells all my father's different products.
Okay. So that's Outback Naturals. Listen, everybody, we appreciate y'all being here. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already. And if you have any other questions that we missed, please go ahead and ask in the comment section of the replay of the video. We check all the comments and we will answer them, as best we can. And we really appreciate everybody being here. And we hope you enjoyed this live stream and we answered your question. Janis, have you got anything else that you'd like to say?
Yeah, I think I agree with Colonel Brock. We are the peelers, so consider yourself peelers if you like us, and just keep coming back and we keep peeling more onion.
Okay, that sounds great. Anyway, and like I said, we want to wish everybody a happy Memorial Day weekend, and we will see you soon. The next video we're going to have is an interview with Ken Urquhart, like I said, who was L. Ron Hubbard's butler at St. Hill and his LRH personal communicator, and you'll see that'll be coming out on Wednesday, okay? And until the next time, we'll say bye-bye.
Bye.